So today we'll be taking a deep dive look into Morgana, his role in the story, and how his lack of any memories or personal background highlights just how important these things are in building a positive sense of self. As you can see, this video on Mona is a lot different from my other Persona 5 character analyses because unlike those, there's no need to dissect Mona in the context of Japanese culture. But that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve his own proper analysis. So before we dive in, I just want to say that if you're worried about P5R spoilers in this video, don't be. Anything unique to Royal will be delegated only to the final section, which will be timestamped. Now, let's dive right in. So, Morgana is quite divisive among Persona fans, and it's not very hard to see why. He rags on Ryuji a lot, yet is easily provoked himself. He also seems to think he has a real chance with An, yet as we can all clearly see, he's a cat. Enough said there. But heading on to that, he demonstrates the stereotypically feline haughtiness and aloofness at one moment that soon melts into the need for affirmation and affection the next. All of this to say, he definitely has more noticeably negative qualities than much of the rest of the cast. Now, personally on my end, I tend to be drawn to the obviously flawed characters, because they're the ones with the most room for growth, and being able to see it over time is always so satisfying to me. So in regards to Mona's arc, there's another layer added to that equation, since his story is a different take on the typical learning to be human archetype. You know, like when the AI develops human emotions like Aegis did in Persona 3. He's more like Teddy from P4 in this regard, but with a heightened emphasis on autobiographical memory and how it's important in forming a sense of self. This concept is what gives each of the Phantom Thieves a personal reason to fight against the injustices the palace rulers perpetrate. An and Ryuji stand up against Kamoshida because of what he's done to them and their friends. Even Makoto's arc against Kaneshiro, which seems personally removed at first glance, draws on Makoto's fond memories of her father, the late law enforcement officer. It informs her strong sense of justice for the common civilian, in other words. But now in contrast, take a look at Mona, our party member who has no memories, nor a home he has any previous attachment to. Meanwhile, he's noticing just how far An, Ryuji, and Joker are willing to go to take Kamoshida down. How their shared adversity due to this abusive teacher, especially the latter's current threat against the three, drives all of them forward. As for Morgana, aside from his general sense of morality, all he really has to cling on to is this assumption that progressing farther into the metaverse will turn him back into a human. So I really can't see how he wouldn't be feeling isolated from everyone else to some extent, not having a personal reason to take on these palace rulers like Yusuke, An, or Ryuji do. But that doesn't become a huge deal until much later in the game. So back to these first few palaces, the PT just wouldn't have gotten by without Mona, since he's the most knowledgeable about the metaverse after all. From securing treasure routes in the palaces, to taking on requests in mementos, Morgana takes on a mentor and advisor role in the Phantom Thieves' early days. If An, Ryuji, or Yusuke needed something explained about the metaverse, Morgana was the one to go to. But then we arrive at Kaneshiro's palace, where the brainiac Makoto joins, and suddenly Morgana's advice isn't all that necessary anymore. Thanks to her incredible intellect, Makoto not only easily picks up on how the metaverse works, but even solves some puzzles that Morgana couldn't. And at this point, the original 4 Phantom Thieves have achieved a good grasp on how things work in this space. All of this to say, Mona's beginning to lose that one edge he had over everyone else, which was being the leading resource on all things involving the metaverse. But before we elaborate on this point, we need to take a little detour first. So have you ever thought of Mona's age? He really can't be more than 3 years old at this point, given what we know about Akechi first receiving his powers. Mona was created just before Yaldabaoth completely took over the Velvet Room, and judging from his interactions with Joker and Ryuji, he hasn't had any contact with real humans in the time before their meeting in Kamoshida's palace. So taking this into account, it's really not all that strange why he acts like a bratty little kid in so many ways. He also talks really big about all these things that he hopes to do or must be true about him, though everything about these things are only based on assumptions, like how he's so sure he must be human. And he puts on this huge bravado to back it up, always playing up his skills when it comes to the metaverse, the shadows, and all that jazz. Now, I don't want to downplay how much knowledge he does have and teaches to the others, but he also clearly doesn't know as much about mementos or his own background as he likes the others to believe. But with each new palace completed and party member added, his big ego starts to melt away. We see that he actually does feel left out in many ways. He has no prior memories that help him relate emotionally to the other thieves, all who have been on the receiving end of abuse in some way or another. And when he actually does start to regain some of his memories, he begins to question if he was even a morally good person in the first place. Something that's especially worrisome for him in context of what he does with the PTs, since their whole shtick is becoming vigilantes for the sake of justice. Not only that, but he begins to worry if he was ever human at all, as seen in ranks 5 and 6 of his confidant. He's quick to cover it up with his usual haughty facade though, and everything seems okay for a while, until Futaba officially joins the team. Makoto's addition earlier already eked into Morgana's clever advisor role, and now Futaba has taken over his navigator role. Then thanks to Makoto's connection to her sis, she's able to get some invaluable data that can only be decrypted by Futaba. So that's what our genius hacker is up to while all the Shujin kids, and even Yusuke, chill in Hawaii together. As for Mona, there's nothing he can do but just restlessly pass the time. I think people often forget that Morgana's initial reason for working with Joker and Ryuji was part of a deal, technically. He would teach them how to steal palace treasures if they helped him recover his memories. This makes him the only main party member to join that doesn't have anything to do with bringing an abuser to justice. Meaning, he struggles to relate with the other thieves in this way, and he feels like he's no longer adding value to the group now that they have these 2 new intelligent members. Futaba even figures out how the entirety of Mementos generally works on only her first visit there, something Morgana never pieced together, even though he's known about this place for far longer. Ryuji's words really start to sting, and his crush On just thinks he's cute when he's trying to be cool. Then the Hawaii trip happens, further isolating Mona from everyone, while his only company Futaba seems to treat him more like a pet than a teammate. In sum, their actions, albeit unintentionally, make Mona feel like no one takes him seriously. And adding on to all of this is his lack of memories, which leads him to believe he has no sense of self or purpose. Like, think about how your past experiences have helped you become the person you are today. Like someone growing up with many pets going on to become a veterinarian. Or for example, in the game, Makoto aspires to be a police officer because of the honorable morals set by her father's legacy. So, since Morgana is a super young and immature kid, he rashly fires back at Ryuji in one of the most infamous scenes of P5. That's right, the one where he cuts ties with the group. If he manages to accomplish something even they can't do, all by himself, then they'll prove he's not useless, right? Even though deep down, the real reason for his departure isn't to prove himself to the Phantom Thieves, but really to himself. That he really does have value and is an asset to others. That he has a purpose and place to belong. In this sense, Haru is some much-needed respite for Mona, since her complete rookie status to the world of personas means he gets to play the advisor role and feel appreciated again. But it's not long before he's confronted with that feeling of uselessness once more when he's unable to protect Haru from Sugimura on his own. Later at Leblanc, Mona finally opens up to the PT about everything he's been bottling up. He's felt so self-conscious because he has no background, no one he wants to get revenge on, or anyone he wants to save. In other words, he has no identity, unlike everyone else, which was why he wanted to be human so badly in the first place. He still has so many doubts about his actual origins, but admits the one thing he does know is that he wants to stay with the Phantom Thieves. This is the moment Mona understands he doesn't have to be constantly proving himself to the group. They think he's intrinsically valuable as their friend, first and foremost. They've already come so far together, so it was a no-brainer that he's one of them. And so, in the culmination of Mona's arc, he says loud and clear just how much the Phantom Thieves mean to him. That nothing in the world can replace this incredible group of friends. Seeing Mona's actions for the rest of the game affirm his growth, since he's a lot more subdued when it comes to the ego and snarkiness. Like sure, he and Ryuji still trade some remarks here and there, but we can tell it's really just for fun and that they don't mean anything by it now. So I have just one more thing I want to touch on when it comes to Mona, but that has to do with the new Royal content, meaning spoilers for Persona 5 Royal are ahead. I repeat, P5 Royal spoilers are ahead. So wow, Maruki's reality was quite the interesting twist, one thing in particular being Mona's new form. While I felt for him earlier on in the game, Mona's whole desire to become human never hit me as hard as when we actually, saw him as a human. And I also remember this one time when Mona mentioned it'd be really nice to have opposable thumbs so he could use a phone. And it just really got me thinking how a phone is just one of those things that's so natural in our daily life. We don't have to think about it, which makes it so easily taken for granted, right? I know I'm guilty of this. So yeah, when it comes to Mona in human form, just seeing him like that triggered something that's more of just a personal thing for me. It just comes up every now and then, and that's the wish to go back to being a perfectly able-bodied person if I could. I mean, I don't know anyone who probably wouldn't think that. So for those of you who don't know, I have a rare neurological condition called transverse myelitis, which affects my mobility in so many ways. Just one example is I have to actively think to walk. As in, yeah, like literally thinking about which muscles to activate and move to even take a few steps. It's just a part of what makes walking so much more tiring than it ever was back before my diagnosis in 2015. There's no cure for it, so I just do my best, accept what I can, and don't worry about the things that are outside my control. And in the same way, Mona affirms he'd rather live in the correct reality where he truly matured by having to come to terms with the fact that he is a cat. Even if it wasn't exactly what he wanted, he was still able to find a meaningful purpose and place to belong. Mona's really developed a strong bond with Joker, the person who helped him see how to deal with whatever lot you're given in life and how to persevere and focus on what is in your power to change. Similarly, my late mom and my dad have always been those people to me, given the adversity they've overcome themselves. But now I'd like to hear your thoughts, if you got any, on Mona's human form, or just anything about Mona really in the comments. And so with that said, there we have it. That's the Morgana video. If you like this, it would really help me out if you could give this a like. And lastly, I want to give a huge thanks to all my patrons for the support, especially Jared Breland, Andreas Hansen, Captain Hobo, NT Luck, Big Clingy, Sam Bezjak, Thomas Perez Jr., Francesco Santoyo Rego, Silverwind847, Sathya Selvaraja, M. Meownalin, Gigi Sora, Platinum Rose, and Malcolm Lowry. Thanks for watching, and until next time guys, take care. See ya!